Welcome. I'm James Franco, the director of Spider-Man 3. Here with my friends, Tobey, Sam,
Hello. Hi there.
Topher,
Hello.
and Bryce.
Oh, hi.
And Thomas.
Hi. Hello, America and all points beyond.
Hi, this is Kirsten Dunst.
Welcome to the movie. I'm always impressed by this Marvel introduction. So Tim, tell us about this credit sequence.
Well, this is a similar beginning to the other Spider-Man pictures, just so we had some consistency thematically. And then, because it's a continuing story, we wanted to re-familiarize the audience with the characters, with your character, you know, Harry and his relationship with Peter, how Peter got bit by the spider, Mary Jane Watson, the fact that these three had always been in a love relationship, because this is a continuation of that relationship. For me, I wanted to make sure that they knew that Harry had her affections early. This is not a new development. To make it as natural as it was that she would fall back into the arms of a old lover. So that was important to show that they had been together.
I think it's cool. I mean, it's obviously a movie sequel, but, you know, comic books are serial by nature, and this kind of feels like just this introduction. I don't know, it makes me feel the comic book backgrounds of the film. We're kicking it off to a funny start here.
Yeah. I love these first two films so much. It was such a blast to become a part of these films after having enjoyed them as a fan.
Yeah, same here. That's the same exact thing. It's just the first two were so strong, and I felt like the second one was absolutely amazing, and even almost surpassed the first one. And so I was just like, okay, what's in store for the third? And I think it really delivered. I mean, it's unbelievable. You guys have just added so much from film to film.
Kyle Cooper designed this credit sequence, and he's got a team of great animatic artists and computer guys that worked with him. It really was getting the audience back up to speed. The ones that had seen the first two, we couldn't expect them to remember all the events that had happened, that she had learned, Mary Jane had learned that Peter Parker was Spider-Man, that their love story had started, that Harry had lost his father to Peter, and that now he had the power to destroy Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
All these are important elements to put into this piece. We wanted it to be similar to the other title sequences, but be different also.
Yeah.
Sam does like to torture me because this stuff here with the kids spitting, throwing spitballs and shining the light in my face, I was like, Sam, isn't this a bit much?
There's Aaron.
And on the contrary, Sam wanted to just keep adding more and more.
I don't know what you're talking about.
And I don't think it was the torture of Peter Parker. I think it was the torture of Tobey.
I think so too. There's actually a couple shots I don't think they even made it into the film where
I don't think they were filming it.
Right. I'd be on the board, and Sam thought it'd be great if sand rock hit me in the back of the head, and he volunteered to throw those rocks
That's right.
again and again and again.
Somehow that didn't end up in the movie. The spirit of it is there, you know.
So
That's
when
you're flying away
later
from
when I
it.
slammed into the wall too, some bits of the wall were supposed to hit me in the head, and you volunteered for that too.
Anything to help you get in character, you know.
5
you
unit
feel
shooting,
the
but
pain.
Sam said, "No, just put those on hold, and I'll throw these rocks."
This is MJ's entrance to the film, and this was my first day of work. There wasn't any audience when I came on stage. Well, this shot there was, but this was at 6 in the morning, first shot. Never walked down these stairs before in these high heels, and had to make up my own choreography, too. It was kind of haphazard day, but so I'm lip-syncing to myself in this scene and trying to act like I know what I'm doing.
Was he here tonight?
This is the first thing we talked into, so it's always like, you know, getting in the groove of it all again, and so. But it's nice to work with you, though, because we're so familiar with each other and we really listen to each other. It's nice to know which buttons you can push in people, though, when you know them that well. So it all goes downhill for MJ from here. That was her high moment of the film.
Sam, I have a question. Do you extensively storyboard your films? Because just the way, like the composition of your shots and the information that you reveal in their shot, like it's so subtle, and I feel like, I mean, what kind of artists do you get involved in that?
Well, I do work with a great bunch of excellent storyboard artists. And every shot in these Spider-Man pictures is storyboarded. Although oftentimes Bill Pope, the cinematographer, and I will abandon the storyboards. They're incredibly helpful and almost necessary for all the effect sequences because they take so much pre-planning to get the elements all figured out. Oftentimes it could be 5 or 6 elements that have to work together, so there's 3 of them might be shot by even another unit, so it all has to be pretty nailed down in the effects department, like any effects picture. So those boards are very important. But when it comes to the emotional scenes, I try and let the actors, specifically these two, James, yourself, Topher, and Thomas, everybody, guide me, show me find what the scene is, and then put the camera in the right place to capture that, performance-wise. But some of the artists I've worked with that are great, that worked on this film, like Christopher Glass, Gabe Hardman, Dave Lowry, Jeffrey Lynch, Steve Markowski, Rick Newsom, Alex Cannon, Brad Morris, Tyler Thompson, Ryan Woodward, Anthony Zierhut. Those are just some of them. And,
Some of the storyboard artists.
Yes.
You know what I also love that you do? Some of the guys who've been with us or working with you on the storyboards, and you really would empower them and have them go shoot shots and do second unit stuff. And I've really seen some of the artists blossom over the 3 pictures into, setting the stage for them to go direct or do whatever themselves.
Yeah, they contribute so much, the storyboard artists and the animation artists, and they know more than anyone the meaning of the shot, why it has to be this way, and sometimes there's no better person to therefore direct the shot than the person that really understands what this particular moment is about. I don't mean directing the actors, but I mean, an event or part of an action scene.
That's what I was so struck by, Sam, this entire shoot, was how collaborative you were and how much you're willing to kind of hear people's opinions and let them do their very best and let them shine. And then in the end, of course, everything comes from you. But I felt that just showed such confidence and humility simultaneously, and I really appreciated that. I'm sure everyone else did too.
You're too kind to me. Sometimes I'm still trying to figure out how to do that because I sometimes run into conflicts. I mean, I need everybody's input to make it all work and to make it special and unique and make it real. No one understands a moment like an actor finally living in the moment. Finally, a director can't create that. It's got to come from the inside of an actor to make a real moment like these moments with Thomas. At the same time, the director needs certain things to happen, and you've got to somehow be flexible and know the story you need to tell. And I'm often coming to conflicts with it. The toughest one I had was with Topher in this alley scene we were shooting. I love Topher, and he was so funny and brought so much humor and life to everything he did. But then I had a conflict with Topher that I still have sleepless nights over because it's
I got to say, when I
match,
first signed on, Sam, you said to me that it was going to be a collaboration, and the script wasn't even finished, and we were going to find it together. And I remember that first time we all saw it in Japan. I mean, look, I've never been in a film of this scope, and you're like the president of a small country, in leading everyone on a huge project like this, especially after having 2 that came before it that were so successful. And I was so blown away when I saw it and how you brought all the elements together. And yeah, I mean, there are rough days and there are days where you feel like you found it or you didn't find it. Yeah, I'm sure as a director, like there is as an actor, but you were always there to talk to and to listen. And I don't think you can ask for more than that in a director. Is someone to, and I think people who don't work with you know that. I mean, I certainly knew that coming in.
And as far as Sam is concerned, it was such a wonderful opportunity because I've been an admirer of Sam's for so long, all the way back to Evil Dead movies, and one of my personal favorites, Simple Plan, which I think is a masterpiece. And the people that do work so tirelessly, and it's just Dan Bradley and Scott and all the special effects guys, and just how they always kind of maintain this Raimian cheerfulness in doing their jobs. It's just great to be a part of that company.
This girl was wonderful, Perla. She's so sweet, and she had another scene at the end of the picture that I ended up not being in the film, along with the fantastic Teresa Russell. They both are left out of the final scene of the picture, but I thought their performances were very real and grounded in this.
You know what I find interesting, and tell me if you want to talk about it, but there's an interesting thing about adapting comic book movies to this, or comic books to the screen, and that you, maybe because there's so many different versions of the characters, because there's different, Spider-Man series and that kind of thing, and so not all of the origins of the characters are consistent in all the things. So when you make the movie, you have to decide, which stories or which elements you're going to keep. So I was wondering what you guys decided, how you decided to introduce Venom in the way that he's introduced and used, and also Sandman.
Alvin Sargent really wrote the character of Venom. He came up with almost everything that character does. I mean, obviously it was written by the Marvel comic book artists and writers first. And I don't know the artist, the writer that first drew or wrote the story of Venom, but in this screenplay, Alvin's really responsible for his voice. And then Topher really completed him, added a whole nother dimensionality and humor, and brought to life this great insecurity that I loved. And knew there was a problem with the guy, too. When you guys are out at that festival, at the Spider-Man celebration, and you say, we just had coffee, and then I see his face. There's a problem with this guy. And I thought you really brought the monster to life. All he needed was to be supercharged now. He was already there and just not allowed to quite come out. But basically, that one was written by Alvin and the previous Marvel artists, and I would say Topher. And then Sandman Thomas really created out of pretty much thin air.
I just mean, and obviously you couldn't put this in a movie, but Topher, maybe you know too. Originally, my friend told me that all the superheroes went into this different world or plane, and everyone was battling it out, and one of the things that came out of it was this weird alien suit, and then it took years to develop.
Are you talking about Secret Wars?
Yes.
I'm the resident geek here now.
So,
I actually read this when I just coincidentally.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
When I was collecting comic books in 5th grade, I got into it because this great illustrator, Todd McFarlane, who was illustrating The Amazing Spider-Man, that went off and had his own Spider-Man comic book. And I went to a mall and I had the first issue of his comic book just called Spider-Man, signed by him.
The Lizard, right? Was the
he did in that one. The Lizard was a big deal. So it was. I remember my mom. I literally remember reading these comic books and my mom saying, "Do your homework. When are you ever going to need to use this in your adult life?" But
that's funny.
It was great. I mean, I remember when I was first sitting with Sam, when we first started meeting about it. I had all these ideas and opinions, and also a lot of fear because I was such a fan of the character, and he's a little different in the comic book, and I wanted to, please the fan and myself.
You really did. You were very concerned about the fans feeling that the portrayal of Venom was accurate.
But to answer your question, there's a thing called Secret Wars, which was kind of like a spin-off, I guess you'd call it, in the comic book world. And he kind of found the suit and brought it back to Earth, and then it became this evil symbiote, and he got rid of it. And it was only kind of told in flashback how it leaked onto Eddie Brock.
Yeah.
But I actually liked the origin of the character the most in this movie. It's kind of a combination of Ultimate Spider-Man, which is a retelling of Spider-Man when he's younger, and the Amazing Spider-Man.
This is we shot this months and months before. Or maybe we reshot it, but I remember shooting a version of this months and months before, and then that's right where Sam threw the rock on my head.
This was our very first day of shooting this stuff, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, I remember before I think I was just hired and I came on set and saw you guys doing this.
That's right. You came by to visit. Mm-hmm. You blew us away, by the way. Tobey and I and Laura Ziskin and Grant Curtis were all in the room in the Jimmy Stewart building here at Columbia Pictures. And your audition was incredible. You were so good in that audition.
Well, and to frame it, which is basically she came in for a meeting to meet with us about it. And
Laura forced her to audition.
Well, basically, she got put on the spot, which none of us wanted to do. But Laura was just like, "Would you read it, honey?"
She's a good producer. She was trying to make sure the movie was had the cast.
Well,
when it needed it.
because we've always thought too, it wasn't so much about I mean, I personally knew your work and knew you could act, and so to me, it's not really a question of that. But when we were casting the first movie, even we read with a bunch of different girls, and it came down to chemistry. You know, it really is like if it kind of clicks right between the two characters, and so, you know, when you were like, sure, yeah, I'll do it, and it was so kind of fun and casual, and you didn't even look at it and picked it up, and we just did the scene. It was like one of those exciting feelings when we did it, and we all kind of knew, and then you left the room, and we're all looking at each other, giving like the thumbs up kind of thing,
so cool.
like okay, that's it, we're done, it's awesome.
That was a great moment. I remember.
I'm glad I really got to audition, because I know based on just a meeting I wouldn't have gotten it, because I look so different from Gwen Stacy, and so it's just like, oh, well, you know, that was nice, but she's just like totally inappropriate for the part. So I'm so glad I had a chance to like do that, and I just had a really fun time too. You guys were all so nice.
You brought it to life. You brought a real energy to the screen, not just in that audition, but in the movie, and that's why you and Topher were so important. The young, filled with life characters. You know, one representing a positive force, the other competition and a force of darkness. Why it was so important. Thomas' storyline is a little more separate than your guys's, but we needed that for the interaction with Kirsten and James and Tobey to enliven it.
Yeah.
And then Thomas more represents something from Tobey's past and present that he has to deal with, but it's a little more outside that.
Yeah.
I'd love to break subject for a second and actually talk about what's on the screen, because I just think this action sequence is phenomenal.
It's unreal.
And would love to know any little tips you want to give us about how this is made. And
well, this was just the work of hundreds of artists and animators. Spencer Cook, our chief animation director, Scott Stockdyke, the visual effects supervisor, and great stuntmen like our stunt coordinator Scott Rogers, who worked literally probably 100 different rigs and devices to get the characters, yourself and James and your stunt doubles, to move about in the way that the storyboards and the animatics were asking, the story was asking. And then a lot of it was designed and helped by, first of all, Jeff Lynch, my great storyboard artist and architect, but also my second unit director.
And how
both of them.
It seems like these sequences have advanced so much since the first one even. And what in particular has changed? I mean, I remember you talking about how we're much more confident about catching just the aerial flight by, just with the movement of the camera, and that it was much more static on the earlier ones. And
I didn't think that I had a lot of confidence in photographing Spider-Man, and when I say myself, I mean my entire team on the first picture. I didn't even know if a CG character would work.
Yeah.
John Dykstra felt that it could, and so we went through intensive amounts of tests and finally realized that it would work. This is Thomas's great idea. I'm sorry to break subject, like you say, but he said, I want to hit this dog. He wanted to let the audience know, that he had some weight to him. We had just come out of a softer scene with him, and he is a villain, and he had to let the audience know he could deal with Spider-Man if he had to.
That was whenever we were doing the pre-shoot, and it was the very first day we were downtown LA, and I thought, okay, I'm going to probably make the most inappropriate suggestion ever. And I went to Sam and I said, is there any way I could punch a dog in a movie for children? And, Sam was clearly receptive to the idea. But
I think it was great. It's obviously a puppet dog provided by KNVFX, and we had our second unit director shoot some real photography with an attack dog and a stunt double, and then Thomas was bold enough to punch the puppet. That's what, as far as he would contribute.
But you know what? The real dog got me back for punching his puppet neighbor because one of those dogs bit me on the heel when I was going over that fence.
Oh my God!
And I was like, "Is there any way we can get this dog to stop biting me?" And I think we did like 10 takes, and I think the dog hit my foot about 9 of 10 takes. You didn't know that, did you, Sam?
No.
That's because you were off having a cappuccino while we were shooting the scene.
Got to stay alert.
I would love to continue hearing, too, from Thomas, from you and Sam, about just the creation of this character, because I really love, I love this sequence, but I also love what you guys did with the character.
When I first signed on, there was no script. There was just an idea, and Sam walked through all of, at that point, the storyboards that existed, but there was a completely different villain at that point, and was going to be hopefully played by a thespian as diametrically opposed to Topher as I think you can get in the human race. And
it was the Vulture, and we had Sir Ben Kingsley who was going to play that role.
Sir Ben Kingsley.
Sir Ben Kingsley.
Sir Ben.